How are we all doing, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another stacked show of the Wallop Sessions. What a game last night was, hey? I was not expecting that. I would have taken a 1-1 last night, guys. Like, honestly, the fact that we were just so aggressive just felt so foreign to me last night. Like, I don't remember this England. That's probably the best English performance of my entire life that I've seen. And thankfully, there's, 7 more games of this? I cannot wait to get into the thick of the World Cup this year. If we're going to keep playing like that, I think it might actually be coming home. It's no longer a meme at this point. Uh, because to be honest, up until last night, it was just blind optimism. But I think that was a really good performance last night. Passing was a bit sloppy, but what are you going to do? It's the first game of the tournament. But anyways, off with the football. We've got a stats show for you today with pet peeves as per usual. We also have the reviews of Backrooms, Scary Movie, and Rental Family for you this week, and I cannot wait to get into those for you. Fun fact, my opinions on Scary Movie were that strong, I've had to go full school assembly on you guys so I don't swear on air, so it's actually fully written down in front of me so I can say my concise thoughts without swearing on air. It was that terrible. But anyway, let's get back into the music now with Medicine by Laundry Day. Much as the thrill of the World Cup's got me all sucked up in the hype, my pet peeve for this week is the celebrity camera angles in the audience. And it's not just the celebrities either, it's the people that are running FIFA right now. Not because of how they're running things, but why do they always look so like disinterested? Every time they're on camera, it looks like they just sniffed a baby's nappy, and they just have such a disapproving look all the time. And I just don't get it. Like some of these celebrities are clearly just there for the status symbol. Like it's becoming a massive problem in today's game, honestly, where celebrities are just turning up and then just not doing anything when they turn up to these sporting events. They're basically just using it as glorified networking opportunities. Like you see it all the time when the Super Bowl's on as well, to the point where if my team made the Super Bowl, I would genuinely not go to the Super Bowl and would just go to DC and watch it because the atmosphere is just being absolutely murdered by these awful ticket prices and these people in charge just being sat there with the most disinterested looks on their face. It's honestly painful. Like, at least like talk to the people you sat with. That's surely like the bare requirement. And it's not just that either. It's like legends of these countries that have never been to like World Cups before. They're sat there all like miserable as well. It's almost like you're told that if you're an important person at these events, you're told to look as disinterested and as miserable as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a requirement for a ticket at this point. It doesn't matter if you're the head of FIFA or literally Captain America. It's all the same, just disinterested look on their face. Like that ticket could have gone to somebody that like actually cares that their club is at the World Cup, and it's just filled at the minute with people just being disinterested and just staring literally into space sometimes, not even at the pitch. Like that, surely that's the bare requirement turning up to a football game, just to look at the pitch. It's like the bare requirement and the bare minimum I expect from you. Like, how hard is it, man, to just be part of the atmosphere for all these like high and mighty people that go to these games, man? Like, just enjoy the game. Yes, it's your job to like put it together, or you've probably been asked to go due to some corporate invite, but just enjoy the game, man. Like, no one ever enjoys the game anymore when you go into these crowds. It's sad, honestly, more than a pet peeve. It's probably because they're not being told to make it more important with a gambling sponsor, which is also everywhere at the moment. Like, I can't go 5 minutes without seeing an England squad breakdown being sponsored by some gambling company. And it's like, if you want this game to matter, bet on this game. I'm like, it's an England game. Why would I not care? Why do I need to bet on it? Like, Jesus Christ, nothing's ever enough for these people anymore. They got to have that little bit more of stakes and a little bit more um I don't know, risk to the game. It's not enough to sit on the end of your seat and be present and enjoy the moment anymore. You've got to forfeit your entire life savings to watch a game you've never seen before. If you do bet on the football in recent weeks, do be prepared to bet on, I don't know, like a Quidditch final from the Philosopher's Stone in about a week if you win like a fiver. Because that's what will happen if you start gambling, ladies and gentlemen. You will go from betting on a well-informed game to Quidditch or games of Warcraft 3 on your PC or whatever. It's a slippery slope, everyone. Just don't do it, honestly. Now, it's back to music now, but I've ranted about the current state of the World Cup. Other than that, the World Cup's been pretty great, as I've stated earlier. But here is Michael Jackson with Dirty Diana. Was, some might say, by Oasis. They're an absolute tune there. Love that song right there. Even though it does fall into the same trap that all Oasis songs seem to do, where they only write 2.5 minutes worth of work and then just repeat the chorus for 3.5 minutes. That's just the classic Oasis thing there. We'll write a song that's 2.5 minutes, write a really catchy chorus we can just repeat for the 2/3 left of the song. Anyway, it's time for the first review of the show. I'm going a bit backwards this week with starting with the homework review of Rental Family, because as soon as I saw this movie, I knew I needed to give it its allotted time slot. I needed to give it as much time as I possibly could, because this movie is immensely powerful. Brendan Fraser's returning once again for another amazingly dramatic performance, and it's probably the best movie I've seen in 2026 so far. I'm gutted I didn't support it in cinema, but you can guarantee that I'm going to be going down to H&V next week to go get the Blu-ray to show my support for such a banging film. The film is done expertly. Within the first 3 minutes, yes, 3 minutes, you know exactly everything you need to know about this guy before the film even begins. And it's so good how Philip is established so quickly and so thoroughly in such a short space of time. Within 3 minutes, you know he's a struggling actor in a busy city in Japan. You know that Japan is quite isolating and lonely. You know that he's isolated and lonely. You know so much about this guy in such a short space of time, and it gets so much to the point, and it's great to watch and really, really enjoyable. There are some really, really beautiful moments in this film, and I want to talk about a few right now. And one of my favourite things the film did was it didn't stop his job throughout the show, which I thought was really good, because a lot of films would have stopped the progress of his actual job to focus on the central family that he was being in the role of. Think of like 2000s comedies, for example, where this guy's doing a job, but the job kind of falls to the wayside in favour of the main ensemble. This film doesn't do that here. There's several clips of him doing more jobs and other jobs throughout the film, and it just fills out his world and his role so well. And his connection to Kiko in the film is absolutely beautiful, which is an old man he looks after in conjunction with the family as well. And their chemistry is so good and so palpable on screen, and it's just such a beautiful film. One of my favourite scenes in the film is when they go to the cat festival to celebrate the year of the cat with the family that he's looking after, and they have such a beautiful moment where the girl Mia gets her palm read, and that scene is so beautiful and so well connected and done. But that's not even the best part of this section of the film. Throughout the film, we're established that he's been after this Korean show for a while. He's been in the audition process for this Korean show, and we get the phone call saying he's got it, and he, rightly so, because he's built a connection with this girl Mia, he turns the role down. But that's not what I found particularly beautiful about this scene, because on paper that's a very generic scene that happens in all these movies. But I loved the slight little touch of kind of having the cat face paint half washed off So you got a visual representation of how much this girl is like staying with him emotionally. I loved that little touch of just keeping the cat makeup on. It was such a beautiful decision to make, and it's just such an encapsulating film. And at one point, he goes on a road trip with Kiko, and that's just so beautifully done as well. And it's so mostly because it's beautifully timed in the script as well. Because rightly so, his time with the girl is done because he's not supposed to be part a part of this girl's life for forever because that's not his job. But rightly so, right after he loses her and he's a bit frustrated he's not doing the role he wants to do in her life, he goes to facilitate Kiko's lifelong dream to sort of make up for it, to go to his hometown whilst like he still remembers everything. And that scene is done so beautifully as well when he finally finds what he's looking for. I'm not going to say what he found, but it's just so beautifully done, and the performance is so heart wrenching and amazing to watch. And if you've got Disney Plus or have Amazon, anything, watch this film. I literally give it like a 15 out of 10. Everything about this film is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your whole life. The color grading is beautiful. The performances are outstanding. I've said this before in past shows, but I don't know what they're doing to childhood actors at the moment. But every film I see childhood actors in these days, they're knocking it out the park, and that's been the case since Hamlet earlier in the year when the man, the boy and the girl were played exponentially well, especially when the boy sacrifices himself for the girl. Like it's just such a beautifully done scene. Child actors are getting better and better by the decade, and I think we've got a really strong generation of actors coming through. And I'm really excited to see what they do as adults because they're obviously extremely talented as kids. But yeah, this film is beautiful from start to finish. I teared up several times watching it. Every scene is purposeful and done to the best degree it possibly could have been filmed, colour graded, edited. Everything about this film is done to the highest standard possible. And if you've got a spare 2 hours, you will thank me for watching Rental Family. It is an absolutely incredible film from start to finish. Watch it at 8:01 tonight. That's how much I want you to watch it. Anyway, musical break now with Seven by Catfish and the Bottlemen. On to Backrooms now. One of my favourite films again of the year. This film was incredible from start to finish. And one of the things I loved about it is it was a horror movie that prioritised its mystery and its intrigue over scaring you. I think that that was a very, 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 very good option because you're almost freaked out more than scared by what's going on. And I think one of the big advantages to why that's the case is the color grading choices in this film are particularly amazing. And I'm a man that loves his colour grading more probably than most people. But I loved the choice to actually make the scary part of the film these warm, inviting, tempting colours. Because you, as an audience member, also get sucked in and tempted by what's going on. And you could tell that when they were making these movies and making these decisions, that they went, hang on a minute, the intrigue here and what is going on is the film here, not making sure you have a heart attack in the cinema. And I think that's why they went with the color grading options that they did. That they made this back room just so inviting and so tempting with its warm color choices. I thought it was just so effective in its visual storytelling. I loved there were loads of little details that I really loved. Like I loved the found footage portion where he takes his employees to go see what's going on, and it's beautifully done and well made and so well edited. I I think I mainly loved it because it was a live in action found footage element to the film. because by that point you've had very much what's the word, like traditional camera angles, you've had traditional wide angles, close-ups and all that stuff. It's a really nice change of pace to see like some handy cam sort of camcorder angles in amongst all this thing that's going on. And one of the things I really did love is how they incorporated the horror into the actual narrative at the end. As you know, I'm a sucker for a horror film as long as the horror actually adds to the narrative. And this is another shining example of how to do that, because the movie kind of dives into these ideas of creating ideal versions in your mind and kind of uh, almost turning your brain into a habitat more than a brain in its own right. And I think that's what makes the unsettling nature sell so well, because of the narrative theming of the film being making an idealized version of these events and these people in your life. And there's this beautiful decision to kind of make these like weirdly like distorted versions of these people where eyes are slightly wrong or in the wrong place to kind of visually show that narrative feeling of you losing people and you losing that touch with those people and losing those little minor details that you knew these people so very well. And that narrative is so well constructed, and I loved every second of watching Backrooms. The performances at the end, especially when they have the like final confrontation of what's been going on, it's just so captivating and haunting at the same time. If you can, I believe it's still in cinema at this moment in time, but Backrooms certainly belongs in the front. And it wouldn't be surprising if it wins like Best Horror Picture. Yes, even better than Exit 8, but that is also exceptional. Anyway, it's time for music now with Goodbye Kiss by Kasabian. On to the worst movie of the three. We're talking about Scary Movie. I don't know why they didn't put a number on it, why they wanted you to forget the others, because this film, I'm embarrassed I contributed to its box office, to be quite frank. I couldn't believe how lazy the film came off. The best way I've described it to people that I've seen since watching the film is, if you would have told me that they split filming Monday through to Wednesday, the script was written by 14-year-old boys, and then Thursday to Sunday the film was written by I don't know, out of touch like boomers, I would have believed you. The film cannot decide what sort of humor it wants to do at all. Because some of the jokes is, old man yells at cloud, and then, but some of the jokes are so childish you couldn't believe that somebody actually written it who was below like year two writing comprehension. And all the jokes are just incredibly predictable. They're either, you can smell them coming a mile off from the minute the film even starts. And even the jokes that you don't necessarily see coming, you know what the subject matter is going to be from the minute the joke starts. So even if you don't know necessarily where the joke is going, you know what the subject matter is either going to be about this, or this. And it's just a genuinely, I was in, as I said, I was embarrassed to be in that cinema. And full disclosure, I did watch a few scary movies to kind of see if it's just the formula I didn't like or if it's just the film. And it is just the film. I watched, I think it was Date Movie and Scary Movie 2 in preparation for this review. And those films are leaps and bounds ahead of what they've put on screen uh this week. It I just couldn't believe that it was actually on my screen, and it put all my writing um in quite a good light, to be quite honest with you. I was quite happy with my screenwriting ability after I walked out of that theatre. It's like I said, every joke you can see coming a mile off. The jokes are either written by 14-year-old boys or boomers. So there's no like balance. The use of Ghostface is entirely inconsistent and basically inconsequential, and it's all just all over the place. And I get that it's a parody film, and it's kind of supposed to be like a massive gigantic skit, but plots like Date Movie and Scary Movie 2, they actually have plots with jokes that actually counted towards the narrative that was taking place. There were so many jokes that would happen that just kind of happened and didn't move the plot forward. Like there's this whole scene where like Kai Cenat's in it and they do some scary stuff with Kai Cenat that doesn't add anything to the plot other than taking the Mickey out of streaming culture, like you know an old man yells at cloud sort of thing. And then scary movies like their mate, and he's been invited onto the stream to do stuff with them. And then the next scene, they're running for their lives because he's about to murder them or whatever. I'm like, you just saw him like murder someone in that scene, and now you're running away from him like no, nothing matters. And the twist is completely pointless and contrived at the end, to the point where I'm just a bit like, oh my god, did they really do that? I'm like, it's so disappointing. There was one good scene in the film, and there's a reason why I've mentioned it last. Is there's this amazing fight scene between the main woman that's involved in Scary Movie and Ghostface. But the main reason why I'm bringing it up is this amazing John Wick style choreographed fight scene that's really satisfying for the eyes. Is completely undermined by a stupid, oh, this stunt double's amazing joke. I'm like, you've taken me out of the only time I've been invested in this film for a joke that was written by AI. It's just so lazy and stupid. And here's what I mention when I talk about things like Date Movie and Scary Movie 2. It's a joke they already did in Date Movie like 20 years ago, but it was done 10 times better in Date Movie. Because in Date Movie, the switch of the stunt double that's obviously not Alison Hannigan just happens. It cuts you and takes you by surprise because it just switches to a stunt double that's obviously not her. I think they switched like Alison Hannigan, who's like this small like ginger white lady with like this muscle black dude on the motorbike, and it works because it takes you by surprise and it's sudden. But this just takes you out of it to explain a joke that doesn't land, and it's just stupid. And I was just like, movies like Power Ballad and movies like The Tudor are flopping because people are going to see this stuff. And I'm like, oh god. And it put me through a bit of an existential dread. I felt particularly good because I'd contributed to those banging movies before I watched that rubbish. But Jesus Christ, it was an absolute embarrassment to filmmaking, and I wish they just left Scary Movie where it was. And if they are going to make another one, just choose a writing staff and stick with it. Don't go into year six and whatever people you got the blatant like transphobic jokes from. Like it's just ridiculous. Like just stick with the same writing staff and maybe try and write a few jokes that don't come from about like 20 pages away that you can see coming. Anyway, some music now for some quality art after listening, talking about that stuff with You Are the Only Exception by Paramore. And now it is time to conclude one of the most important segments of my show for the time being, whilst I find another host for the coming weeks, or co host, I guess. We conclude our conversation now with Nat Shelley about our manosphere. This has been a very important conversation for me over the last couple of weeks. It's a bit emotional to see it come to an end with this guy in particular because I think it's a very special story. I very much enjoyed my time speaking with him, but there will be more guests to talk about this issue in the future. But in the meantime, let's conclude our conversation with Nat Shelley. I think the whole world has a checkpoint problem. I don't think it's exclusively the like a women, men or women's problem. I think women have been fighting the checkpointing system for ages because people have been telling them for generations that basically if you're not like married by a certain point, you're like a spinster and stuff. That's been going on for thousands of years. That checkpointing has been a generational problem regardless of gender for generations. I think it still is. I think it's even more magnified when you can go on Insta and Facebook and see people doing these things.
Yeah, but
And
as me and you know, though, those they're fake, aren't they? Those aspirational goals are fake. The guy with the Lamborghini hasn't got the Lamborghini. The 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 guy sort of blinging it up in Dubai is on a 5 day break that his mum lent him the money. Uh, there was something with the guy from the Louis Theroux. Wasn't there that he still lives at home with his mum or something? Um,
yeah,
is it the HS Tiki Toki, whatever his name is?
well, he brought his mum with him. I don't know if he still lives with his mum, but his mum was still with him, like bossing around on one of his live streams. But then again, like I felt that she came across as she was caught up in it as well because as soon as Louis challenged him, she was like bringing up his like some of the dodgy people he's interviewed, and you've got like not got like stand on, and
Jimmy Savile and stuff like that.
yeah, but I think that was my main issue with the documentary as well. Is I think if you're caught up in it, I think you walk out of that thinking that the alphas have won the documentary,
That's what
and
I've read a lot about it, and they do. They they kind of thought they came out well. Initially, they thought that they came out of it rather well, didn't they?
yeah,
You know,
I thought
the backlash over the coming over the subsequent weeks that I think they then realised that they came off a bit bit dickheadish, let's say.
yeah, but I think yeah, it's very interest. It was it was an interesting uh documentary, I guess. Just to wrap this up because I realize how long we've been going on for now. It's been a very good. What would be your key piece of advice for just young people in general?
Um, I would I would say read more is one of the first things, definitely. Yeah, you need to understand. I think people need to understand the world as much as they possibly can, as much as they can take in, and that means views they might not agree with, plenty that they do agree with, and just just read. I think that art is being lost of just reading and learning. You don't have to be in school. That's one thing I would say to anyone is to read more. And I guess it's something I keep on coming back to is the world isn't fair, and I think the sooner I think the sooner we accept that, I'm talking for myself here. I like I said with the my epiphany that I had, my moment of clarity with the chat show, Trisha. Um, it's not fair, and you do have to take the punches. You do, and to become a resilient person, I think the first step is to understand that. It was for me, and from there, everything branched out. Then I know it's not fair. I know I'm going to get kicked and I've got to try and get back up because when I wasn't getting back up, I was drunk in a gutter and I was close to death at 19 years old. And again, when I had my relapse 10 years ago when my mum died, um, when I gave up, I was not far from dying, and I just had to. sort of realized the world's not fair, and from that, everything grew and got better. Um, I guess it's a self pity thing. For me personally, I was very big on the self pity, self reflection, but not doing anything about it. Going down the off license and just buying another 16 cans of strong cider. Um, and it was, I was making excuses for myself. And it was like nothing was fair, nothing was going right for me. But that wasn't me. Nothing's going right for many people, and going back again to this Instagram fake veneer that people put on everything, that's not real. That's not their life. That's just what they pretend in, and they want the rest of the world to see. Um, and the world just isn't fair. And I think that's the biggest bit of advice that I could give anyone is because from there, for me, I grew. Once I understood it wasn't personal and I just have to try the best I can, that's when I started getting goals. That's when I started looking after myself. That's when I started my life basically is instead of moping and blaming the world, I looked inwards and I think people need to do more of that. I know I'm talking from a personal level here, and people weren't in the same boat as me, but when people are drifting, when someone feels like they're drifting, I think it's really important to understand the world. So read more about the world and realize it's not geared towards you becoming successful. And it's the same. It's the same for everyone in life, and it goes back again to responsibility. So that's the three bits of advice I'd give: read more, responsibility, and understand the world that's not fair. And from there, you can grow.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point about the world being not fair. Because I remember when I was drinking, I kind of had this cavalier almost attitude because obviously being someone with a lifelong disability, I kind of grew up knowing that anyway without even like having anything particularly happen. And I think when I was drinking, there was kind of this attitude of I've already had the worst case scenario possible, so what I do by drinking pales in comparison to what has already happened.
That's
And
given
I
you
think
your life has given you a resilience. Then clearly, isn't it? And that's a big positivity that a lot of people haven't got. And you know, kudos to you for having that strength. Unfortunately, with your disability, um, it was forced upon you, but it's a positive. It's given you a strong mind, I think. Very resilient. I think at such a young age, you should, you know, give yourself a big pat on the back. I'm not trying to brown nose you here, but genuinely, I appreciate people who've reflected and looked at themselves and gone, do you know what? F this, and it's what you've done. You've bettered yourself, and big shout out to you for doing that. I respect any man, any woman uh, who does that. And so well done. In a, people say that to me a lot. I don't give myself the respect I do in the last few years, especially since we've been working with the alcohol charity, Alcohol Change. I've appreciated what I actually did, and people have said to me you know since I got my life together, fair play to you for doing that. And I'm like, oh, shut up. It was just what I did. But it's past couple of years, I've appreciated what I went through, and it's going back to sort of the reconciliation thing that we talked about earlier. Unfortunately, a lot I don't think I can go back and show my old school friends that, but I hope they've had a quick look on Facebook or Instagram and seen that I've done all right, because in their hearts they know I was a nice guy until my parents split up and I had this unhealthy relationship with alcohol. Um, but yeah, sorry, I'm waffling a bit now.
no,
I
it's
should give
fine.
yourself a big pat on the back yourself, like for dragging yourself out, basically, isn't it? It's and starting to live and starting to set your goals and stuff.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate that. And obviously, one of the big reasons why I wanted you on today is because I think your story is incredible, and you should be giving
Well,
yourself
I said
credit.
thanks, but you know what I mean.
So, story on the like. I think, as I said, my work through ACUK has given me a greater appreciation for people that have had a larger struggle with like the. It's changed my whole like magnitude on what you know um drugs and alcohol actually do to people. Like, and I've seen things like people like relapse in the group chat and like and things like that, and people like going through it, and then them all being so supportive and stuff. It really gives you a whole new perspective. And as I said at the start, it really gives me an appreciation for the fact that I was able to do it cold turkey,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you know
you did.
not everybody gets that luxury, and you know um, I do see it as a luxury. I used to see it as a bit of a skill McGill kind of thing when I before I joined ACUK, but through my time with ACUK, I have actually noticed that it was a luxury to actually be able to do that, because a lot of people don't get that luxury. Uh, but yeah, it's been great speaking with you today. I hope you've had a good chat with me as well.
Yeah, thanks. It's always lovely talking to you. I don't know whether the listeners will know, but we've spoken quite a bit privately on through the charity, and we've done some projects together and stuff. And it's always a pleasure. Thank you, and yeah, thanks for having me on, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Lovely. Cheers, Austin, mate. Bye bye.
Bye.
I'll stay on for a second. You probably cut that. Cheers for doing that.
This has been a very, very interesting show for moi. Keep diving into two magnum opuses of filmmaking, and then having to make it up for with scary movie at the end. It's been a very, 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 very interesting show for me. Next week we will have a deep dive into Steven Spielberg's latest outing in Disclosure Day. We will find out. I will disclose whether I liked the movie or not next week. I'm very excited for it, but I do have a few what's the word, hesitance since I last watched Ready Player One, which wasn't particularly interesting. But this one has an absolutely stacked cast. We've got, for the second time ever, we've got a duplication in the cast with Disclosure Day and Michael. There's been a few crossover actors from that film to this one. But I'm excited to see what that movie has in store. I think it's going to have a lot of interesting things to also say. But also, we will be looking into a film called The Mandalorian and Grogu. I've been putting off watching this film because I actually not watched enough of the Mandalorian show to watch it yet, but I've been told it's a standalone film, so I'll be marking it as such. So once I got the all clear from some of my friends who have seen the film that you can watch it without watching the show, then I will certainly be on that like white on rice in the next couple of days. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it has to offer. I know that Pedro Pascal is an absolute everything at the moment, but there's a reason for that. He's a very talented actor. He's got this very interesting social skill that I've always wanted to say. Actually, I'm sorry, this feels like a bit of a derail, but it is relevant. I swear. Every interview he says, um, he has with like a woman, for example, he always compliments that like their nail varnish. And I've always thought, oh, I wish I could do that, but with perfume, which is kind of like a weird thing to say because it's a bit like walking up to someone and randomly go, "Oh, you smell nice," when you don't know someone. It's a bit like umming and ahhing about whether it's the right thing to say or not. Just walk around random people and just say they smell nice. It's a bit doesn't strike me as the social norms at the moment. But I've always been envious of like he can just instantly just compliment people. It's always been a bit of a admiring skill of mine as I develop my social skills throughout the years. Next week homework is one from one of my favourite actors, and I swear I have got this correct this time. I know a couple of weeks ago I did get it wrong. In Will Arnett, Is This Thing On? I gave you a homework from a recent film this year last week, and it's paid absolute dividends in my movie of the year. So I wanted to give you a Will Arnett modern underrated German Is This Thing On? It's one of my favourite films from the year previously, and I fancy watching it again. So we're going to give it to you as the much beloved homework for this week. And also, we'll have more pet peeves going on and obviously more World Cup breakdowns. I don't know if I can call them breakdowns because I haven't got the ball knowledge to call them breakdowns. I watched 1 2 hour video on the tactics now, I think on Pep Guardiola. But yeah, we'll start the show with Mandalorian, Disclosure Day, and Is This Thing On? You'll have a great time watching Is This Thing On? And I fancy a refresher. So we're going to conclude now with 2 songs, starting with Talk to You by Sam Fender and Mama Said by Metallica.